Standard Time. I'm Alex Jones, your host, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, broadcasting worldwide. It is Thursday, March 28th, 2024. And coming up in about 10 and a half days, we're going to have what they're calling an incredibly rare total eclipse of the sun, but it's not totally rare. Yes, it takes hundreds of years for the moon to block the sun on the path it is from southwestern Mexico, right up through central Mexico, through South Texas, through East Texas, and then over through the Midwest and into New York, up into Maine, and then out of the Atlantic Ocean. This is something that happens all the time. Just last year, 6 months ago, there was a 90% eclipse of the sun in Austin. In fact, it was basically a full corona where you could see just the edge of the sun around the moon. It was amazing. I took photos of it. We showed it on air. And if I'd have just driven, they said 300 miles north, I would have seen the total eclipse. But instead, suddenly, we are hearing, and the feds have declared an emergency, the states are declaring emergencies, the National Guard, the State Guard, the Threat Fusion Centers, Homeland Security say, watch out, emergency alerts. This is just deadly. Something horrible is going to happen. Well, we're here to War Game tonight with a whole raft of amazing individuals that said they'll join the spaces. And we've got Chase Geiser here, co-host, who's going to be controlling the spaces through our system that's going to be telling you some of the folks that are coming up. And I want to get their perspectives. But I believe nothing's going to happen on the 8th of April in 10 and a half days. But what I do know is going on is the feds are using this as a martial law drill. And that's hands down a fact. Now, if you go back to the most ancient cultures around the world, whether it was in Mesoamerica, or whether it was the ancient Chinese, or ancient Europeans, or ancient Africans and Egyptians, all cultures were obsessed with lunar and solar eclipses because they knew the stars and the moon and sun were special. They didn't know what they were, but they knew sometimes they disappeared. Sometimes the rhythm of get up in the morning, the sun comes up, you go to bed, the sun goes down. Sometimes every few years, or depending geographically where they were at, every 50 years or so, the sun and or the moon would just disappear. And there's different legends. The Greeks said that a big creature came out of the ocean and would eat it, one of the titans. And the priest class would say, give us more power, because they were marking down astrologically, mathematically, when this was coming. Well, people would forget after 30, 40 years not seeing one. And so they would have all this mumbo jumbo and this fear of give the priest class the best food, the best lodging, the best women, everything. And so the Illuminati and the occult and all of this comes out of the mystery schools that every ancient culture had. They weren't really colleges, but they were mainly just some math, some science, some medicine, some farming, some architectural understanding. But you didn't just give that to the general public. That was held in these temples of knowledge. And so a lot of it is, again, connected to superstition. And this is similar to how they tell you if you have too much carbon dioxide, the earth's going to die. And we've got a carbon tax you, and cow farts are bad. And it shows the incredible control. Almost all cultures, from the Druids to the Aztecs, at one time or another, would engage in mass human sacrifice during solar or lunar eclipses and take hallucinogenic drugs. So that is my hypothesis, my theory on why this is happening. And there's no doubt the feds are using it for the first time ever for this hysteria. Kind of like first time ever wear masks and don't leave your house because of a virus that kills less than 1%. They're trying to make us more pagan. The UN has said that, more superstitious, more ignorant. National Guard will be deployed for total solar eclipse on April 8th. And it goes on from there. Oh, local governments working with the feds. They're telling people, watch out when you're outside. The sun will slowly disappear over 45 minutes or so. It'll go from being light to twilight, and then it will just come right back. And it's beautiful, and it's amazing. And the shadows it throws, the things it does is amazing. And so that's my view on this. That's where we are. But I wanted to talk to a whole raft of folks who are going to be calling in on the spaces, and also Jack Posobiec via Skype, and also Jay Dyer. I'm going to try to give each person as much time, and mainly go to the main speakers, because We have 2 hours here tonight. But I want to play a clip that's just indicative. It's kind of a snapshot of what I've been told at the gas station and at church. And I went to an Academy sporting goods store 4 days ago, and every person in there was a listener. I mean, just showing you how awake people are. But the majority of them brought up, or a lot of them brought up the Eclipse, or also the red heifer. We're doing a special show on that soon. But this is just, the buzz is everywhere. People won't stop asking me, but this is kind of indicative in a 1-minute clip. I'm just a gentleman online pointing out all this craziness and saying what's coming. I don't think it's because something's coming that aliens are going to invade or there's going to be a cyber attack. Somebody might use it to do that at that point. Some cult might commit suicide. There might be a terror attack. There's all the hype. But largely, it's about an excuse like, oh, we're not having a martial law drill for the election. We're not having a martial law civil insurrection drill for war with Russia or a financial collapse. We're having it for the eclipse. And so I see this as a dress rehearsal cover. We'll get Chase Geiser's take on that in a moment. He'll tell us about all the amazing folks that are coming up here, and we'll just try to go through them as quick as we can. Also, the guy that sounds just like Elon Musk, but it's not him. I want to actually meet him in person.
Adrian Dittman.
Adrian Dittman's going to be on, and a bunch of others. But let's play this short clip of just a fellow on Twitter basically saying what everybody else is saying. Here it is, or X.
Have y'all seen this? What is up with this eclipse that's coming up? You know, schools are canceling. You know, the people. Then look at this. Schedule errands and appointments early. Have a communication plan with family and friends. Have cash on hand in case of limited internet access. Buy necessary groceries and gas. Expect heavy traffic. Why? I mean, we've been through many solar eclipses, and it's never been a big deal. I mean, schools usually use this as a learning experience. We build the little glasses. We go outside, play for a little while, and then we stare at the sun, you know, because they always told you don't look at the eclipse without your glasses on. But I don't know, could this be part of the reason why the millionaires and billionaires are building their big bunkers? I don't know, but I just find this really odd that they're canceling schools and putting out eclipse tips for something that we have experienced multiple times in our lifetime. But I just want to make y'all aware of this. As usual, let me know what you think about in the comments. Like, follow, share, and have a great day.
That's a good summation. So, could be used for the cover for something else? Maybe. But I just see it as another excuse for tyranny. We're already getting loaded up with speakers, all sorts of interesting people from different fields. We're also going to have some folks on Skype. Chase Geiser's showing this. Tell us what's coming up, and then give me your view on this.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of people that have agreed to pop in. This is the first time that we've done a space not as spontaneously as we usually do. Usually we decide to do a space maybe 30 minutes before the show, and then we just launch one. So for the past couple of days, we've scheduled this, got everybody hyped up. We've already got close to 2,000 people in the space. We've only been live for about 8 or 9 minutes or so. So this is great. We've got some awesome speakers that are going to pop in. Jack Poso is as Alex mentioned, and others. Adrian Dittman, I believe, is joining us as well. I reached out to Andrew Tate. He asked what time it was in Bucharest, so maybe he'll pop in. We're not sure. It's going to be 1 a.m., I believe, for him. But a lot of great speakers popping in already. As far as this stuff's concerned, I just find it fascinating that we've arrived at a place where things that we traditionally perceive as indicative of a primitive culture or a prior era, like being obsessed with astrology or child sacrifice or animal sacrifice, all seem to be manifesting again this year at the same time for some reason. I find it interesting.
Or panicking over an eclipse.
Yeah, the eclipse thing, people were freaking out because they didn't know for a few minutes at a time whether or not the sun was ever going to come back. But now we know the sun's going to come back, so why are we still freaking out about it, you know?
Exactly. Well, the priest class would tell them it might not come back if you don't behave us.
Leverage, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when I read UN documents 20 years ago, and Dr. Michael Kaufman was in the film Endgame, he died years after, that great guy. He read me UN documents in the 60s where they said, we're going to bring back ignorance and the occult and freaking out over solar eclipses. In fact, that's in Endgame 1.5, where he actually talks about all that and paganism. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned hidden knowledge and the mystery schools. And I know that there are some people that really explore the esoteric and what's the metaphorical meaning or the algorithmic or allegorical meaning of some of these messages or signs. And it's so easy to get lost in the weeds. I know a couple of weeks ago when we were doing another space here on X, somebody called in and was mentioning a particular chapter and verse of Revelation. And I just told you, Alex, I don't know where to begin when we get in the more and more esoteric stuff, unraveling it. What's obvious is the blatant headlines and messages that we get from the New
That's
World
right.
Order.
They're putting fluoride in the water,
Right.
fentanyl deaths, open Satanism, open world government, open cashless society. But it's like the Q thing. People love an esoteric riddle or, because they can project whatever they want onto it.
Yes.
And the feds know that. So they're creating hysteria over a total solar eclipse, even though many of these happen a year over different parts of the U.S.
Absolutely. And it's, from a science perspective, it's awesome. It's exciting. I'm going to try to take a look at it. I get that it's a fun, cool thing, but it doesn't make sense to me why there are all these calls for martial law just because everybody's going to be looking at the sun at the same time, Alex.
Well, remember over in Australia and in New Zealand, remember the different prime ministers over there and presidents said, don't look at the sunset. Don't talk to your neighbors. So they also get scared, the globalists do, when we have any communal event they don't control, because we're looking at the sun that God made, that is the source of our life and the source of the climate, and we're not looking at a TV, we're not looking at an NFL game. So they're also hijacking it, not just for a federalization command and control drill over all the different counties and cities, which they admit they're using it for. It's also because they want to inject themselves, like at every Christmas or any other holiday, with some big story. So they want to dominate our psyche.
Absolutely.
Oh, the government's here to hold your hand during this.
Absolutely. And it's not the first time that they've done it specifically for an eclipse, like you briefly mentioned. I think it was clips 2 or 3 on the clip sheet. I was doing some research trying to get some clips together for you, Alex, for this event. And it was so funny to me that 6 years ago, there were calls for martial law, and FEMA was coming out and calling for increased regulation because of some eclipse that was happening in 2017 or 2018.
Oh, yeah, that was the one over Oregon.
Yeah. They're just
I forgot that. They have that clip?
2 and 3, yeah, those are both. I think they're labeled 6 years ago on the clip sheet.
Okay.
But yeah, they're from 6
guys.
years ago.
I must have shuffled. I must have shuffled my clip sheet. So can I please have another clip sheet, please? Thank you. I never saw that in there on my desk. Well, good job, Chase. Guys are getting that. Okay, I don't want to dominate this. Neither do you. We'll play that clip coming up. We got so many big guests here today. So many interesting people. I'm told we've got one of the top boxers on the line as well. So you just control who we go to next. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, why don't we start
first?
Why don't we start right out of the gate with Ryan Garcia? Ryan, go ahead and unmute yourself and say what you have to say if you're still there.
No, I'm just here. I've been following Alex's stuff for a while. Always been intrigued by what he's saying. So, I obviously do my own spaces, so I'm not here to, try to really input too much. I'm here to listen. But I do understand that April 8th is a monumental day for a lot of people, and I agree with Alex. It is quite strange that the government is tripping out on this day, and there's a lot of solar eclipses. But what we do know is that this solar eclipse, if you target it on the map, there's clear signs that this is a sign from God for people to repent of their sins. Things are coming out, the truth is coming out, and everybody can see it. Everybody's getting exposed, and nobody can do anything about it. But again, I'm here to just listen, and if you guys want me to speak about anything, I will. But again, you guys can continue the show. I'm just here to just show my support for Alex, as I feel like I always have, and let the Lord's will be done, not mine. So have a good space. I'll be listening.
Well, Ryan, thank you. I really appreciate you calling in. Since you're here, we talked about the occult and how they're obsessed with numerology and with astrology and with astrophysics that's more modern. They brought into that, but it all has its roots in the occult. If you don't mind talking about Bohemian Grove, because I never got the specifics, and I'm not saying you're wrong or weren't witnessing something. Can you elaborate on what you said a month ago or 5 weeks ago?
Yes.
Where you said that you were tied down and saw something happen at Bohemian Grove?
Yes. Again, I'm going to Congress with this. I'm not playing around. So I've been working closely with, let's just say, people that are at the front lines of this, that understand what I went through and understand what other people have went through. This is it's not Bohemian Grove is not the only place they do this at. You understand what I'm saying? They do this everywhere. So I everybody's like, release it. I can't. I mean, I can, but that wouldn't be the smart move. I'm dealing with some evil people here, and I have to be very aware. So I can't really.
Well, Ryan, let me be clear, Ryan. I'm not disagreeing with you. In fact, from what I got from what you said, I said maybe he was at another Grove, because from what I know, by members of the Grove, and including the former German Chancellor, Helmut Schmidt, he wrote in his book, Men in Power as a Political Retrospective, when he was the West German chancellor, that he loved the Druidic rituals they did at groves in Germany, but his favorite place to do them was at Bohemian Grove. And I've gotten their annals, I've snuck in, others have gotten information now. They do mock human sacrifices. Kids and people do get found dead in the area. It is a death cult. So you're saying specifically, you're not ready to bring it out yet, but you're hinting that you were at an offshoot of the Bohemian Grove, or are you saying you were at Bohemian Grove?
I cannot do specifics right now, but again, what happened to me was real, and these people are all gonna get their day. Don't worry. Again, I'm working with like the people that could actually take this down, and there's many other stories as well. Do you believe that they could also erase your memory or attempt to erase your memory? That's just a question.
Oh, do I believe that there are techniques to erase people's memories?
Yes.
Well, 100%. It's called electroshock therapy.
Yep.
And they would generally just a few quote treatments of it causes brain damage. Done right after events can erase those memories, and lots of it can erase almost all memory, both short term and long term.
Well, I'll tell you, they tried to do it to me. Did not work. God did. God carried me through it all. But they tried. But you got to beware. God is the one that rules over all. So I'm just blessed to be here right now and able to still fight and still able to fight this. And everybody, that's why everybody's like, yo, be quiet, be quiet. Y'all would not be the same if y'all went through what I went through and seen what I've seen. None of you guys would be the same.
Well, Ryan, can I just tell you that in MK Ultra, and they have other chemicals and other things they can do that work the same. They would electroshock children when they tortured them. That's declassified, including sexually. Over 10,000 children in Canada and the U.S. under Dr. Ewing Cameron. Are you telling me that you remember being in a hospital bed and having electrical panels put on the side of your head? Are you saying you were electroshocked?
I'm saying that they attempted to erase my memory. That's what I'm saying. I again.
Well, I mean, I know those programs are real. I don't deny what you're saying is true.
Yeah, 100%. And everybody knows that MK Ultra is real. Everybody knows that they do these things to, and they could do it in other ways too. Why do you think they try to give me medicine? Why do you think they try to put me on Xanax and all the other shit? The psychosis.
Yeah, I mean, I only mentioned electroshock because it's the oldest documented. Yeah, they've actually got viral injections of live viruses that'll attack parts of the brain and cause different types of memory loss. They also have pills that do it.
That's what I'm trying to say. They literally try to give me medicine. They try to give me psychosis medicine. It was fucking crazy. And guess what? Did not work. Just didn't work. I re-engineered my brain. I drank a bunch of coffee, and I know that sounds crazy, but I had to do anything I had to do to just spark my brain up again. Because they put that shit, I'm telling you, they fucking tried to drug me. And I just thought in my head, if there's any way I could get out of this, which way could it be? So I started drinking a lot. I know it sounds like kind of crazy to say, but I just drank things that were gonna pick my brain up again, And I was just asking God to heal me, Lord, because I would say something and then I would forget the next second. It was fucking wild. And I actually have proof of me writing notes to myself. Why can't I remember anything? Why is it that when I write?
Well, that sounds like what electroshock does is compartmentalization. Well, listen, I would love to get you on in the near future as a guest.
Okay.
And I appreciate you chiming in on the solar eclipse. We're going to send you a private DM for myself and for my co-host, Chase Geyser. And we'd love to have you on. Love to meet you in person. Love to have you in studio. Anything else you'd like to add about the solar eclipse coming up?
No, just repent and come to Christ. That's all I will say. And I'm going to mute myself now. And I love you guys. Jesus Christ is coming back. God bless you guys.
Oh, okay, well, we'll come back to you later if you want to say more. Let us know. Raise your hand. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, of course.
That was amazing.
I was thinking, and I don't want to make light of any of this by any means, but they can't seem to get Joe Biden to remember anything, and they can't get Ryan Garcia to forget anything. It's just goes to show how competent the government is.
Well, that's the thing, is it's all this mind control's hit or miss.
Yeah.
That's why they want microchips. They can do incredible things. They can also do some really bad stuff with
Let
them.
me ask you, what do you think happened with MK Ultra? I mean, they deleted documents, they pretended that they shut it down, but nobody was ever held accountable. Do you
Well, I
think
mean,
they just
MK Ultra went on since the 50s, got exposed in the 70s by the Frank Church Committee.
Yeah.
That was just giant industrial level government testing. There's all thousands of other
Did
programs.
it ever end, though? They said it did.
No, never ended.
Yeah.
MK Ultra, MK, Naomi, a bunch of them.
Wow. Crazy stuff. So Cliff High is somebody that's wanting to speak in the group, and I was specifically asking around today, Alex, for people that we should invite to this space that would be particularly good at talking on this eclipse thing that we've been dealing with. And Cliff High was somebody that Harrison Smith actually mentioned, requesting recommending that we bring in. So Cliff,
Let's go to him.
Unmute yourself and say what you got to say, man.
Yes, sir. Am I there?
You are welcome.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. A couple of things real quick. Your previous guest needs to examine this substance called plasmalogens. Plasma with an A-L-O-gens. It'll help restore his memory. I suffered the same thing when I died from colon cancer, and they gave me anesthesia in the surgery. And if I'm correct, he has this issue where he'll be able to not remember something, but then if he thinks about a subject, some of those memories will come back to him. And the plasmalogens really help that. In any event, though, I have a different perspective on a lot of what's going on relative to the powers that be and what's motivating them, because I look at things from a long distance in time perspective. So I'm of the opinion that humans have had many civilizations on this planet, and we've just exited the Kali Yuga in 1699. And we are in the 326th year of the Dwapara Yuga, and this is a rising Yuga. And here's the concept. Our galaxy is kind of like a flat plate with millions of suns at the middle of it. That flat plate is all of the planets and all of the other all of the matter in our galaxy. Our solar system is out on the third minor spiral arm, and it rises and falls relative to the that plate, such that we are obscured from getting the emanations from galactic center for some period of time, 2,400 years exactly within our Kali Yuga. And then the other parts of our travels around the edge of the solar system in this sinusoidal orbit rises us up away from that galactic edge or down away from it or down towards it. And so we have these rising and descending periods of yugas. These yugas are freaking out the powers that be. The reason that it is freaking them out is because they have all of this esoteric knowledge and giant libraries that they've scoured from all over the planet, and they've done some reading in it very, very extensively. And what they've discovered is that humanity reacts to the galactic center emanations, that we actually change in our mentition and our psychic and physical abilities over time as a species, as we are exposed to greater or lesser levels of these emanations from galactic centers.
And by the way, let me just back you up, because I know who you are, and I've also researched some of this myself. We can look at how the ancient Indians or Hindus looked at this and their understanding of sound and symbols that were then proven by mathematics later. But humans can have their kind of esoteric projection of how it works, but it's known that we will get different types of radiation and emanations, and that there is this cycle in the galaxy, so you can name it whatever you want. And it kind of goes back to Marvel comics and things always telling you the esoteric knowledge the last 70 years, where Superman's, he's blocked from this energy. When he comes to Earth, it has a different energy, then he becomes Superman. They're kind of telling us right there.
Correct. That's exactly the situation. And here's the problem. Our current crop of the powers that be are very much afraid, because they have no way of knowing exactly how humans are going to react, but they know that we are already reacting to this, and then it will increase as we go along. We'll have greater levels of reaction. It'll spread further through the population. It'll affect us more deeply, none of which they can control. There's also this other aspect of it. So I research old languages, and there's a couple of very old languages that are peripherally associated with Sanskrit, and they go back even further than that. In some of those languages, there are people that discuss this concept that our solar system can be thought of as like a cell, like a single cell, with the sun being the mitochondria of our cell. And our solar system is indeed wrapped in an energetic layer that we could think of as a cellular wall. And what the concept is that has these guys freaked out is that at predictable periodic points, which happen to line up with these lunar and solar eclipses in these nodes relative to Vedic astrology, we get this pulse effect where the greater emanations from the galactic center come through our sun. So our sun is not stationary. We don't have a geocentric orbit. We have a helical orbiting system where we are basically being drugged behind the sun like a comet. And the sun actually picks up the energy from outside this energetic shield around the solar system, and it brings it into our solar system. Thus, all the solar flares and the fact that it acts as a portal.
And by the way, that's all real science. We can argue what it does to us, but we are drugged along like a comet. And it is picking up all this electromagnetic radiation. And we are in a magnetic field around the solar system. The sun has its own. Each planet has it. You're absolutely right. And that's something they're really scared of. It's just like hummingbirds or birds or humans have magnetic cones in our brains that pick up the magnetic field of the Earth and the sun. That's how they navigate. A butterfly born in Canada knows how to fly to the same tree, that its ancestors, first flew to Canada from, all because of those magnetic cones. And so just like the sun has an effect, and the circadian rhythm, you're saying there's a much bigger rhythm that the establishment's worried about.
Correct. And it's there's many cycles within that larger rhythm, and they've divided this up. Humans have divided this up over time to these various yugas. The dark yuga, the iron yuga that we just left, the Kali yuga. Now we're in the copper yuga, or also called bronze, and then we'll go into silver and gold. And the literature suggests that by the time we get into the gold yuga, several thousand years from now, humans will actually be dramatically different. We have science here saying, hey. And we also have observational science saying, hey, when I was born, the sun was yellow and it wasn't as intense. I could be out 8 or 9 hours, wouldn't get sunburn, etc. Now the sun is white. It's putting out a greater level of emanations. This was what I discovered in 1997 or 98 in my large language model when I was doing sweeping, and I chose to call it strange energies from space. And the power elite are really freaking out because there is a demonstrable effect already occurring within humans relative to these strange energies from space. And then one other minor thing here, and I'll shut up or take questions, and that is that we have a vast quantity of ignorance within humans, and that ignorance goes directly into our scientists, and they have named a bunch of our DNA as junk. This is ignorance on their part. It is simply DNA that they don't yet understand what it's going to react to and be triggered by, and what it does when it is so triggered. But the power elite on the other side of our science that is dribbled out to us, they have esoteric knowledge that says, a lot of this DNA stuff is going to be triggered by these emanations from a galactic center. That's why they want us underground. They want us to be as shielded as possible. And it's like, hey guys, ever hear of a giant problem we used to have called coal ash? Cost us $1 billion a year to dispose of it. It used to kill hundreds of people a year, and just messing with this stuff out of all these coal plants. And we no longer have a massive coal ash problem on this planet. Why is that? Chemtrails, trying to keep us from getting these emanations from space, but it's not working because they're not electromagnetic in their entirety. Many of these energies shade over to what used to be called the ether, and now they call the field, or quantum effect or whatever. But it's actually
dark matter field.
No, the dark matter doesn't exist. I'm sorry, I have to dispute that. I'm an iconoclast, and I don't find any. There's no, for instance, dark matter. For dark matter to exist, you would have to have entropy be able to be visible somewhere in our universe. And we cannot find a single entropic galaxy, and there should be dozens of them visible to us.
Can I speak on this real quick? I mean, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. This is Ryan.
Obviously, I understand the point where you say there's actually no such thing as darkness. Darkness is just the absence of light. So I kind of could agree to that, but you guys can continue. I'm just throwing things out there. You don't have to listen to me.
No, pop him in and tell me look. When I say dark matter, I'm simply talking about there's a lot of energies and a lot of fields they're not even able to read, but they can see the effect of those gravities or those systems on things. I'm not a quantum physicist. I just read about it, and theories that they came up with 150 years ago, have now borne out so far. A lot of the new theories are boring out, but you're very interesting, sir. How do people find your work?
Me? Boy, they'd best avoid it, really. But I have Substack, and I'm on X here. I'm old. I'm retired. I'm just noodling around in some strange stuff for my own purposes. Not
Well,
really
you got a
trying to
great
sell anything.
voice. Maybe we should hire you to do some voiceovers for us. But I mean, what's your X handle? How do people find you?
I'm just Cliff. It's Cliff_High on X.
All right. I know the globalists are really upset about changes in the sun. They're trying to tell us that it's us that's doing it. No, the sun drives 99% of our climate. Any real astrophysicist will tell you that. If it wasn't for the sun, we'd be living at absolute zero on the surface of the Earth. It's tectonic plates floating on lava. We can live under the crust, but that's it. So the idea that cow farts are driving the weather or carbon dioxide is just preposterous. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
You know, you would think that they would be constantly talking about the difference in temperature increases on Earth versus Mars. Like, it just stands to reason. And
by the way, they correlate. When the sun heats up, Mars gets warmer.
Right. So is Mars getting warmer too? Because there aren't any cow farts on Mars. You know. So
well, it was getting warmer according to the probes and sensors until about 12 years ago. So things have been heating since about the 50s until about 2010 or 11. It's in mainline astrophysics news, and so was Mars. Mars ice caps were getting smaller until about 12 years ago. So were ours. Now they're getting bigger because the sun isn't quite as hot as it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Great.
I mean, think of that. The sun's what makes it hot. We need people to tell us that.
Stands to reason. You want to go to another speaker before Jack joins us?
Yes. As soon as Jack Masubik comes in, he's going to pop in via Skype. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So we've got Andrew Meyer, who was obviously involved in the development of the video.
By the way, I love Andrew, and I meant to get back with him I've stopped taking all my calls. I've just been so busy. My phone's been overwhelmed. I still love you. AlexJonesVideoGame.com. We love you, Andrew. We love everybody. I'm going to get with you soon, but I'm glad we're talking now here on air.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Alex. Love you too, bro. And there's a couple of things that are just wild to me right now. First of all, Ryan Garcia being here and talking about the Bohemian Grove. Now, I didn't want to go to this first, but he's talking about it. Literally, we're making the. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound good. I can hear you.
We can hear you loud and clear, Andrew. Keep going.
Okay. We're literally working on the Bohemian Grove level for the Alex Jones game. So, yeah, AlexJonesGame.com. If people don't know, we made the top trending video game on Steam, the biggest video game platform in the world. It's super fun, AlexJonesGame.com. But I really was interested in the topic, too. Especially it's April 8th and they're freaking out. So Cliff was talking about a different calendar than mine. I use the Hebrew calendar, okay? On the Hebrew calendar, April 8th is the last day of the year. The new moon of Aries is the first month of the year, actually. People think Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, but actually the first month in the calendar is Aries, Nisan, and that's on April 8th. And because April 8th is this day they're freaking out about, it's the last day of the year. That's the day that you can inject energy for the new year. They want to, like, if you look at it, all the NFL drafts, the NBA drafts, they're usually on the new moon or the full moon of various months in the Hebrew calendar. So these high-level people, they know what they're doing. They use these dates. If they're
by the way, there's no doubt.
8th,
there's no doubt that the global elite are obsessed with the Jewish calendar and Jewish mysticism and King Solomon. The Masons are all based on that, and we're pretty good friends. You give me some books on it, so you're kind of an expert on this. What do you think's really going on here?
I'm saying that it's the last day of the year, so for them, it's their chance to inject the energy they want for the new year. If you look at a bunch of astrologers across different fields of astrology, they're all saying the energy is shifting. So the globalists, obviously, they want to make a big push for evil, negative energy in the new year. What do? Destabilize, make people afraid, because that's what they want to push into the new year. So any kind of crisis or fear they want people to have on April 8th, it's because literally
Andrew,
that's
get you
the
on as a guest
seed
about
of the
this,
new
not
year.
the video games. We've had dinner and stuff. You're astoundingly smart on this, and they do it on other people's New Year's too. I notice every year at the end of the quote Christian calendar or Roman calendar, they always have some big negative thing right during New Year's too on that calendar. And they do it in the Chinese calendar too. Have you noticed that?
Yep. It's because these are all different systems. They all have powerful energy. And so for the globalists, they know they want to inject the seed of every new year with negativity, because that's what they harvest. They want to take all of our energy, so they have to implant us with any kind of negativity they can. So absolutely, they are very aware of the astrology. You know, in the newspapers, they put nonsense horoscopes to make it look like childish or foolish to people. But then at the very highest levels, they know exactly what this stuff is used for.
By the way, let me just stop you. Ronald
Reagan.
Reagan, all the world leaders, Hitler, Lenin, Stalin, Churchill, the king, they're all do everything off of it.
Yeah.
So you can say it's not real, but they think it's real. So it is real because they're trying to arrange everything around it.
It's crazy how when you look at these leaders, the most famous example that comes to mind is Rasputin. How the more powerful people come in corrupt societies, almost the more superstitious they become, whether it's Hitler or the Rasputin stuff. It's almost when you get to a certain level of power and you know that you're in a corrupt system and everybody wants to stab you in the back, you start turning in weird directions to find answers. Spiritually.
Well, I mean, I forget Hitler's astrologer was Jewish. His last name was Wolf. And they literally held him captive, but he got free after World War II. And when he told them stuff they didn't like, which turned out being true, they almost killed him. But literally, Hitler would not do anything unless this guy told him.
Really? Don't kill the messenger.
Well, they didn't kill him, but he almost got killed. Were you aware of that, Andrew?
No, that's news to me. That's a new one for me.
I knew his chauffeur was Jewish and that he was made an honorary.
Whatever. It's all just totally crazy.
Wow.
I mean, because they're obsessed with it and they're in power. But you're right. It's different systems, but there is something based to it. What do you think's really going on, Andrew?
I think that we're okay. Let me reference John Dutoit. I don't know if you know him. You should. He's the director of Hoaxed, great documentary. He went and filmed you. He's a total genius too. And he said that this year, talking about 2024, not the Hebrew calendar like I am, but this guy senses the energy. He reads the signs, and he said like this year is a year for karma. And I see all the signs of it. I see it too. Shmuley being on your show the other day, it was the wildest energy, and it's just like everybody getting to see who he really is. That guy has been doing such crazy things, pretending to represent the Jewish community for such a long time, and now everybody sees who he is. He was revealed. So the karmic debt is coming due for so many people. This can be a great year of revelation, of great change, of great things happening.
Well, it's funny you say that because all I'm getting is revealed, even though they're trying to counter it, is the fact that I'm for real. And you're right. All the other fake people are being exposed.
Bingo. People are seeing who everybody really is right now. I'm seeing it in so many different ways. So they're afraid of this for sure. Because if everybody sees who they are, everybody's going to want to, let's say, lock them up. Let's be nice. Everyone's going to want to lock them up at the very least. So they're definitely afraid of this. And we should all be very happy and very positive. This can be the best year we've ever had.
Well, there's no doubt how pathetic Obama and Biden and Clinton come off the plane like, oh, we're with Queen Latifah, like that's cool. And they think Hollywood matters or TV or hip hop or rock and roll. People are so done with that. And here I am looking at the temporal always. Okay, they're using it as a martial law drill to take control at one level. They're using it as a drill to take control of the government. But another level, the globalists really are acting scared of what's happening right now, Chase.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm most scared of that came to mind while Andrew was talking, obviously the number one threat is globalism and these leaders who are conglomerating power and trying to subjugate the entire planet. That's my number one fear. But the second fear that I have is, all right, I believe that good wins in the end, and it's not just because I grew up watching American movies. I actually believe that that's just the nature of things with the karmic energy.
Or we'd all be dead.
And so I'm concerned about, all right, let's just say that all the globalists are completely defeated, all power is taken back, all justice is done. I'm worried about how people are going to overreact when they have all these evil people under their thumb. I mean, are we going to do this?
Yeah, because we're not perfect either.
Yeah,
Look, the public's corrupt and decadent too. I mean, so am I. I mean, I want to do good, but I get twisted and demented,
right?
Like catch myself later. These people don't even have a conscience.
It's like that first scene from Napoleon when they're bringing out the queen. I can't remember her name. My history is terrible. And there's
Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, they're all throwing lettuce at her and vegetables at her, and she's trying to maintain her nobility. And I'm sure
That's a very accurate film.
I'm sure she was a terrible person. I don't know enough about history to say it, but you just see the mob and how it's every bit as vicious as these aristocrats.
Well, that's the French Revolution is a great example. That's the original Illuminati. That was out of Weishaupt.
Yeah.
I mean, they go, oh, we got this evil, corrupt church and evil, corrupt nobility. We'll replace it with even greater tyranny, saying it's for the people. Andrew, great job in the video game. I'm going to get with you soon. We're going to release a new level. I got totally, I won't even say burnout. Everybody knows I've just turned the phone off other than working here. And I feel bad to all my friends, everybody else. Everybody's like, why aren't you caught Mickey Willis? Everybody's calling me. You know, even Joe Rogan texts me. I forget to text. I've turned the damn thing off because I don't want to say I hit a wall in a bad way, but about 2 months ago, I just have stopped returning any calls, but we're going to get back together, Andrew. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. And believe me, I understand you are the tip of the spear. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows you're the tip of the spear. So I just thank you for everything you do for humanity. And to the last point that Chase said, you know, what are we going to do once we take control? That's why it's so important that we don't just talk about the politics, but we talk about God. The more people return to God and love God and pray to God, when we get the power back, we're returning it to God, not just to the mob. So thank you for having me on, Alex. AlexJonesGame.com.
Thank you, AlexJonesGame.com. And by the way, I wasn't saying like I'm so cool, everybody wants to talk to me. I need to start saying on air every day, hey, folks, sorry I'm not getting back because all these friends, all these people, all these folks, I'm kind of making a public announcement here. I'm going to make more on my show because people are getting pissed. He hasn't got pissed, but some people are like, hey, man, why haven't you talked to me in a month or two? I hit a wall.
I'm just glad you texted me back.
Well, I talked to the crew still. But no, I just finally, like, I caught myself. My wife's like, you're up till midnight returning texts? And I'm like, you're right. I just have to stop. I don't, the great place, I'll talk to my lawyers every like 2 weeks. I don't care anymore. I gave it all to God. I can't try to manage all this anymore. I'm just going to do the show and that's it. And I've told the crew that. I've been honest about it, you know?
You want to reach Alex at 877-789-2539.
Yeah, but I'm not like, I'm just telling everybody, a lot of people are getting pissed at me off air because I've stopped, communicating, and it's not personal. We're getting Jack Posobiec any minute now. He had a computer problem. I want to get him on to talk about this, but yes, the establishment is obsessed with this, whether you believe it or not. It's like, you don't believe in the devil believes in you is the point. They are obsessed with this. Who's up next?
All right, let's hear from Keem. Keem, you got your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself and say what you have to say, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Alex, I've been campaigning for you to get back on Twitter ever since you got banned. It's so nice to have you back. But the thing I want to talk about is what's happening tomorrow, according to some reports, that the red heifer is going to be sacrificed and the implications of the 3 major religions being affected. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that because I'm terrified of this. It seems like chaos is right around the corner.
Well, that is a very complex issue. And like I said, at the grocery store last weekend and at Academy Sporting Goods 3 days ago, where I was buying some exercise clothes and some new socks that have holes in mine, literally. I mean, just as a gauge, it's not about me. I go in the store, it's about half full. So it's teeming with people. It's not jam-packed, but there's lines of 20 people at the cash register, okay? So I'm going through there, getting sweatpants, getting some underwear, getting some socks, buying some more, air cartridges for the BB gun in the backyard with me and my daughter. And I'm every person, black, white, Hispanic, old, young, they're listeners. And I say maybe 10 times they brought up the Eclipse, 5 times the red heifer. And I know all about it. And the problem is to even get into it would take hours. And then even my lay understanding would take hours, much less somebody that is like a rabbi or a serious theologian. But here's the deal. You've got some of the Christians that think they're supposed to be God's helper and they're supposed to tell God the timeline to bring back the Messiah, and that they're going to go fund Jewish groups that think that they're bringing the Messiah and that they're going to kill this red heifer. And they could never find them, but they found 5 of them in Texas, and they are totally red, not even one white or black hair. And then they bought this land on Mount of Olives so they can see where the temple was. They can build the 3rd temple. It was destroyed in 70 AD by Titus. And so they believe it brings the Jewish Messiah, but it's a process. And the Christians think, oh no, we're going to make the Jews do this, but then they're going to get our Messiah. And then you've got the Muslims and Hamas saying, if you go after the Al-Aqsa Mosque, we're going to have World War III for sure. 1 billion, 800 million Muslims are going to go crazy. So I'm not attacking the Jews. I'm not attacking the Christians. I'm not attacking the Muslims. I just tell you how I work with God. When I pray alone, and I just open myself up and say, what do I do, God? I don't pray for stuff. And I've always noticed God tells me what I'm supposed to do, and then it always happens. Always. And that's discernment. That's real connection. I know God's real. When God tells me something before it happens, it's insane. I should spend more time focusing on God. I don't do it enough. I just know whenever people, whether they're Muslims, Jews, or Christians, are trying to make God do something, that sounds really dangerous to me. What do you think?
I agree, but I also see, the Middle East being in an all-out war just because of this one event. Hamas came out and said that was part of the reason for the October 7th attacks, is them bringing the heifers over. I can imagine there will be an all-out war after the sacrifice.
I mean, Hamas says that they're going to go crazy over it. And that's dumb. People killing those cows up there on the hill and carrying out their religion, I think it's fine. They're allowed to do that. And I don't think they're bad people trying to do it. I just think that they think they're going to make the way, because it says that in the Old Testament to rebuild the temple, or I guess in the New Testament after that, or not the New Testament, the Jewish writings after that, because the New Testament was Christian, but there was Jewish writings after the Old Testament. I'd have to pull up all the details of it, so I don't get it wrong. But yeah, it's very, very wild. But I think they've got a right to sacrifice cows on a hilltop. But certainly it's all very interesting. What do you think?
I'm terrified. I think an all-out war. I think this is the start of World War III. I think, if you're Muslim and you see that, you think the mosque is going to be destroyed. It's the third most holy of sites for Muslims. And they're saying on record that it's going to be destroyed, and they're building the temple there. So I don't know. I think it's the beginning of the end.
They have to first have pure priests that have never killed, I guess, and touched dead things. That's damn hard to do. And then they've got to kill the red heifer, and then that opens the way to build the new temple. And yeah, it's wild.
What's crazy to me about this is any other religion. Can you imagine, Alex and Keem too? I'm interested to hear what you think. If we were debating the details of some hyper-specific ancient Greek religion, like the details of some prophecy about Zeus, it's just so amazing to me that we're in a space now where it's abundantly relevant for us to discuss prophecy and religion written to that. And I'm not even discounting it.
It's because billions of people believe it.
I know, it's just amazing.
Because there is power to it.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Dune. Paul Atreides thinks it's all BS, even though his mother and everybody else knows it's actually happening, and then it's real and does happen.
Right. He thinks it's fake because they planned it, but that's what also what made it real.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, exactly. Well, yeah, dude, you're not the one running the show here.
Right. A big trend that
that's the whole point, is you can't deny this stuff.
A big trend
it's like people that say,
"Oh, sorry,
it's
Alex.
not Judeo-Christian," and they say, "Oh, the Jews are just total idiots and they're thieves and they're dumbasses." Well, why did they create the religion we all follow, whether we're Muslim, Christian, or Jew? No, there is something interesting and special there, but with great power comes great responsibility. So it's a duality. Anything that's powerful and that interesting is going to have a really good side and a really dark side. And what we should be able to criticize is the bad of any group that's powerful. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
I respect it. I'm not an enemy of the Jews, but at the same time, he's kind of like Smoley running around. That's dangerous. Well, so is Hitler. I'm not against Germans. Absolutely. I'm not comparing Smoley to Hitler. I'm saying I love Germans. I'm half German, but I mean, that guy, just look at Hitler. The guy was like pouring off evil. I mean, if you have any discernment, you go, that's the devil. Like, whoa, chill up your back,
Yeah,
look at Lenin.
Him taking
Lenin
a nap.
looks like that.
I mean, guy napping.
But look at Lenin, the films of him. Yeah. That son of a bitch is evil as hell. All right, we got Jack Posobiec here and Jay Dyer. We're going to take a lot of other folks on here. Adrian Dittman supposedly is going to be reporting in here. We really appreciate everybody joining us. Let's go to former naval intelligence, but a lot of folks are in intelligence. Okay, great. Naval veteran, lived in China, lived all over the world, but a real expert on the Middle East, a real expert on Eastern Europe, a real expert on Ukraine and Russia. Now the Russians coming out and saying we have the proof that Western intelligence funded these guys with cryptocurrency, and all of this is big. So I want to pick his brain about that too. RT, investigators established link between Moscow terrorist attack and suspects in Ukraine. What will the aftermath of that be? But Jack, first off, why is there such obsession over the solar eclipse? And you correct me, I've forgotten this. 6 years ago, they did it too when it was over Oregon. And they called out the troops and had civil emergency. But that was the first time. So why are they suddenly taking a routine, scientific, natural phenomenon and doing this? I see it as a drill, because they're doing it for command and control over local governments and just to hype up more fear. But there's also the esoteric angle. Jack Posobiec, what do you think?
Look, Alex, all I can say is we've known for thousands of years at this point that eclipses have always had symbology that's tied to the occult, that's tied to these types of practices, that's tied to mysticism, to hidden knowledge, to shadow work. There's an idea in occult practitioners that an eclipse signifies a piercing of the veil, or a piercing of the veil between worlds. So it's a very spiritual, very supernatural belief. And now I'm not saying that that's something that I personally believe. I'm not saying that. Now, that being said, I don't know. I can't confirm or deny it, right? I'm also not saying that that's necessarily what everybody going out there believes. But the point of the matter is there are people who believe this. And so it's incumbent, just like you're saying about some of these other prophecies out there, you have to understand what the beliefs are if you're operating in that environment. If you want to understand radical Islam, you have to know what the radical Islamists believe. If you want to understand whatever your opponent is, if you want to understand the Chinese Communist Party, you have to understand their beliefs. If you want to understand Klaus Schwab and the globalists, you have to understand their beliefs. Look, eclipses, they're viewed as mystical. They're viewed also, by the way, as a sort of changing of the cycle, a changing of the pattern. So this idea that there's power in the eclipse, there's secret knowledge that's being revealed, there's a pathway through the dimensions, and it's kind of like a portal being opened, if you will. And that's really one of the big beliefs. And by the way, a lot of people say this about like Halloween and All Hallows Eve, and they'll have that same type of occult belief around that. This is where the same beliefs come in when it comes to eclipses. Now, what's strange to me is, as you say, Alex, we're seeing this government response and this government action that's tied directly into this. And people saying, oh, NASA's shooting off these communication satellites and they want to just measure what's going on with the eclipse and how it's protecting our atmosphere and ionosphere. Okay, sure. I'll ask Elon Musk about that. I'll put it this way. I'd be very interested in getting Elon Musk out here to talk about what he knows about all this.
Very astute answers. I totally agree with you. And so the globalists believe in this, but they're also going to use it as a way to put their propaganda out during news coverage of it, as another way to try to unify people, knowing it's going to be much bigger than the Super Bowl because of the hype when everybody tunes into this. But also, even energetically, astrophysics, I'm not an expert on it, but I've read the articles and seen the reports. When planets align and when the moon goes in front of the sun, it does do a lot of electromagnetic things. We have the circadian rhythm of when the sun goes down, you get sleepy. When it comes up, you wake up. It does do a weird thing in the mind of people. So if we're all focused on an event, they can program us there, but also at esoteric level, program people. And so I think that's why there's such an obsession with it, is because we deep down at a biological level find this very interesting. I mean, there was just an eclipse, a 90% one last year, and the birds started going to sleep and, singing before they went to sleep. And it was only like 40 minutes long. And then you got light again and they woke back up again. And it was very magic. And so I think that this is just, there's an interest in this, and that's why government's hijacking it.
Well, Alex, I mean, it's very clear that they're animals. Animals always react in the natural world in ways that we, for many years, couldn't explain. And for some years, are starting to explain. People know that dogs can detect magnetic fields and things like this, and which is true, by the way. People are gonna, clip that, but it's true. They can. And
that's how butterflies navigate 3,000 miles.
That's how butterflies navigate, right? And so they have senses that animals have senses that we do not have. They can detect fields. They can detect electromagnetism and other things. And so this idea that we're all missing something, but the animals can detect it, it's very clear that that's something that these are huge power sources that are endemic and really just natural to our world. In fact, that we were just over in Serbia a couple of months ago, and we visited the Nikola Tesla Museum. And one of the things they talk about at Tesla's museum, that when he was researching, and the Rockefellers were originally behind all of his research. And then when he came up to them and said, oh, yeah, well, what I found is 0-point energy, and that we can do 0-point energy and we can broadcast energy to anywhere in the world completely for free. And we can pull it directly out of our natural system, directly out of the ionosphere. And they immediately pulled the plug, pun intended, on all of his work, because they said, well, wait, we can't monetize free energy. How can you monetize free energy? So this stuff is out there. The theoretics behind this have been out there for over a century at this point, but there's a concerted effort, and there has been a concerted effort, number one, to keep it quiet because it's not It's not economically viable, but also number two, because this would be not only some of the most creative power in the world, but also the most destructive.
I think the best way to describe this is Jules Verne's 130, 40 years ago described spaceships that take off the way Elon Musk has designed them and go to the moon or go to an asteroid, take off vertically, land vertically. And it happened. Max Planck 140 years ago envisioned atomic theory and the equations for atomic bombs.
Aldous Huxley televisions.
All of it. So we're so powerful. What we think about, we don't magically manifest like Oprah Winfrey said, but with enough technology to big enough massive systems, we're almost there. That's what singularity is when we do just manifest stuff. But our brain is not God. We're still just people, but we have this godlike power, little g. And so the ancients could see this and know this and picked up on energy systems and kind of gave it their perspective. But now with science, we know so much more, and it's actually proving what the ancients thought. But Jack, before you go, because I know you're very busy, and I appreciate you giving us some time, I want to copy your new book. I know it's already shot up into the top right now, and it ties into all this. So tell us a little bit about your book, and then before we go to Jay Dyer and others and some huge folks here on the Spaces, and also give me your quick snapshot, because you folks, I don't just tell every guest they do this. We have guests back that do nail it, but he nailed it like Robin Hood splitting the arrow. It's one thing at 100 yards, because I can do this. I used to be a good archer. I'm still decent when I did it a lot. I could hit bullseye at 100 yards 2 or 3 times if I really relaxed and did it. And occasionally at 50, I would actually split the arrow like Robin Hood, but they're composite now, so we just kind of break it. But this guy splits the arrow like 3 times. You 100% nailed in the last couple of years on my show everything that's happened with Russia, with Ukraine. You predicted the terror attacks coming. What is your snapshot of what's happening there after you tell us about your book?
Look, Alex, I appreciate that so much. Everybody needs to go and get a copy of this book, Unhumans, pre-order it, because this is what we're up against. You have the forces of unhumanity versus team humanity, or the forces of humanity, the people who actually want to continue the human race and life on this planet as we know it, or the people who want to destroy it, to overturn it, to depopulate it, to turn us into some form of other creature. And there's many other types that they'd like to turn us into. But this is what the point of the book Unhumans is all about. We go through the communist revolutions of the past. We talk about how these forces have been building over the years and bringing us to where we are now. So people can go get it, Unhumans. It's at Amazon, it's at Barnes & Noble, it's everywhere. Look, when it comes to, Alex, this question of how these terror attacks took place, look, it's very clear to me that when you have a situation where you're in a desperate position like the Ukrainian government is, and really the Ukrainian government, people need to understand that this is a proxy government, a regime that is controlled by and large by the United States government and elements of the Central Intelligence Agency, with Victoria Nuland and others pulling.
So it's a globalist kamikaze.
It's 100% a kamikaze. And when this thing is going down, they don't want to go down alone. They want to continue the destabilization efforts, because the goal was never control of Ukraine. They don't care about Ukraine. They don't care about the people of Ukraine, the families, the children. They don't care. If they cared, they wouldn't be putting bio.
But you said 3 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago, we played the clips. You said now they've hired this new intelligence guy. They're going to launch terror attacks, probably on, you even said, on public events, theaters. Boom, you called it months before the State Department.
Because I understand their playbook, Alex. Their playbook is destabilization. When they get the reins of power, they're going to foment war. When they lose the reins of power, what do they turn to? Asymmetric attacks. So asymmetric means what? Asymmetric means biological, it means chemical, it means electronic, it means economic, and then, yes, of course, it means terrorism. So terrorist attacks that could take place, and then of course with a flag of convenience, shall we say? Oh, that wasn't us. That was some of these ISIS guys. Oh, that wasn't us. That was some that was some group that just magically appeared out of nowhere. It's amazing to me, by the way, this ISIS case, so convenient. They pop up, they attack the Taliban. They pop up, they attack Iran. They pop up, they attack Moscow and a bunch of random civilians in a concert hall. But with all of Israel Gaza going on right now, which is clearly one of the most destabilizing events anywhere in the Middle East, here's a quote unquote radical Islamic group that apparently doesn't seem to care about the Israel Gaza crisis. No, they're much more focused on Moscow. Alex, It doesn't make any sense unless you understand the Unhumans and understand their agenda. And if you do, you will be able to predict these things.
And you
our
said months
lens,
ago
if it is
the
correct,
goal
it is
would,
predictive.
you said the goal would be to get Putin to overreact. Are we seeing signs he will, or what do you predict is going to happen now?
Look, they want him to overreact. They want him to invade Europe. They've been goading him to, telling him the French are going to come in, telling him the Poles are going to come in, saying F-16s are coming, this and that. They want Putin to overreact and push this on because ultimately, and this is the worst part of it all, ultimately, they want to trigger a third world war. And this is something that a lot of people don't want to admit, but there are those out there who think that they would benefit from a third world war. Well, let's just put it this way. If you believe in the depopulation agenda,